CUSA referendum starts, Norris Library staff ask for better fire procedures, and Miss Montreal is crowned. Concordia Rector John O'Brien is considering the establishment of an editorial board for the University Alumni magazine, following a reaction to the decision by O'Brien and assistant to the rector Michael Sheldon to order the destruction of all copies of this month's edition. O'Brien's decision to consider an editorial board follows a meeting he had with several deans from arts and science, who were not pleased that the January-February issue of Concordia University magazine was destroyed because it contained an interview with student activist Roosevelt Douglas. Douglas was a leader in the Sir George Williams University computer riot of 1969. O'Brien would only say a decision would be made within a few days, but according to one source, an editorial board for the alumni magazine is almost a certainty, and it will be composed of representatives of administration, faculty, and alumni. While voting for the CUSA referendum has already begun, 4 of the 5 faculty associations at Sir George have raised objections to the proposed merger of undergraduate student associations. The presidents of the Commerce, Arts, and Science faculty associations have protested against incorporation of CUSA, its position on faculty associations, and the speed at which they feel the referendum is being presented to students. Sir George students can vote on the first floor of the Hall building and the 3rd floor of the Norris building. CUTV visited the polls, and here now is a video.
This is Lester Glantz for CUTV News, coming to you from the 1st floor in the Hall building. We're standing in front of the voting booth where students are casting their ballots on the referendum whether they want CUSA or not. CUSA will be taking the place of both organizations from Loyola and Sir George, the Day Students Association and the Loyola Students Association. So far the turnout has been fine. You can also vote at the Norris building and at Loyola. And right now, I'm going to cast my vote.
The evacuation of student and staff from the Norris Library last Wednesday because of a fire prompted a call for re-evaluation of fire procedures and equipment. The Labor Relations Committee of the library has officially requested the safety officer contact the Fire Prevention Bureau and ask them to investigate fire procedures and all related equipment in the Norris building. Peter Cooperman, a member of the circulation staff, said that at around 1 p.m. Wednesday, he found smoke on the 6th floor, pulled 2 fire alarms, and heard nothing. Though the smoke was heavy, he said he had trouble getting students to leave the library because they did not hear any alarms. The safety officer, Roderick Nicholson, said the pulling of a fire alarm alerts the security man on the 1st floor and the physical plant personnel in the building who go to the scene of the fire and decide whether to phone the fire department or attempt to deal with it themselves. The circulation staff is upset with the incident as it seems no one was in authority and the present fire procedure could lead to a disaster. The last beer bash of the year was last Monday, so if you didn't catch it, you're out of luck till next year. Featured were the Stampeders. CUTV News was there to cover the action. Concordia's academic calendar for 1979-80 is now available. As in previous years, the calendar consists of course requirements for academic programs and descriptions of those courses, information on services offered at the university, and regulations, both academic and financial. There are, however, a few changes in this year's calendar worth noting. As a result of a problem which developed last term when a commerce professor scheduled an exam on a Jewish holy day, the university has included in the calendar the dates of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and Passover for the information of instructors planning assignment, deadlines, tests, and other important events. The dates are included in hopes that the holy days will be honored by instructors, though the notice does not constitute an official regulation. No longer will students have to cram their necks in order to watch CUTV on the 4th and 7th floors of the hall building, because there is a new CUTV television lounge on the mezzanine where students can watch CUTV in comfort. Here now is a video clip of the new facilities.
Don't bother me now. I guess you can look for people that help you out. Help what? Keep the women clean up. Good. And tell them to help with the exercise. Someone standing by with a towel or running.
It was all smiles and tears of happiness for 16-year-old Danielle Kirali as she was crowned Miss Teen Montreal last Monday night. Miss Kirali was chosen to wear the crown for 1979 among 20 finalists and will go on to represent Montreal in the Miss Teen Canada pageant. CUTV's Richard Grunberg was on hand to catch the moment. Here now is a video clip of that night.
There we have our 8 finalists and these other 11, the young ladies who experienced such a great night tonight. Make it a really good night for them, please. Thank you.
Une bonne main pour toutes les jeunes filles qui ont participé comme finalistes.
Miss Teen Montreal 1979 is Danielle Curley.
For the weather. The high today will be between 1 and 3 degrees Celsius with moderate winds. This is Andrea Levy in Studio A for CUTV News. Stay tuned for sports. Sports action, the Stingers beat McGill in QUAA competition, and Leon Bino is leaving the men's basketball team. The Concordia Stingers knocked the McGill Redmen out of the QUAA playoff picture by defeating them 6-2 Friday night in front of a near-capacity crowd at the sports complex, thereby sweeping the best of 3 semi-final series in 2 straight games. For McGill's dejected coach, Herb Medill, it was the last time he would coach in a while. As McGill previously announced, he would resign at the end of this season, but he didn't expect it to be over so soon. "I really thought we had an outside chance to win it," said the disappointed coach after the game, "but we just couldn't play for 60 minutes. Let me tell you that Concordia is better than I thought they were." Over on the other end of the arena, Stinger coach Paul Arsenault had some praise for the crosstown rivals. "I thought McGill played their two best games of the season in the playoffs," said a jubilant Arsenault. "They're not a skillful team and have only a few talented players, so tonight was a little scrappy, but they didn't give up. This was the kind of competition we needed as we head for the Nationals." Here now is a film clip.
As Feasby feeds play on the left wing, it's cleared by the Redmen, right back into the Concordia zone. Brendan Lowe for Elwood. Elwood looking for that forward pass to Feasby. Feasby sidesteps the shot, scores! And puck carried into the Concordia zone. Mark Dichter now tied up on the play by Stu Gold. Comes loose to Hozak. Hozak centering it in front. A shot, scores!
Very potent Concordia Stinger power play. Doug Bradley, the villain for the McGill Redmen, in that instance, he got the stick up on Kim Elliott a bit in the corner, and the referee took the opportunity to nail him for 2 minutes.
Brendan Lowe, a defenseman again playing that left wing on the power play. Kevin Sands, number 20. Sands feeding Desautels, a drive right on Farmer, makes the save, the rebound. The Redmen failing to clear it out. This is Michel Blenau. He lets the drive go, scores! This is Bradley now. Puts it right on the stick of Singleton.
The Concordia basketball Stingers were eliminated in the QUAA semifinal by the Bishop's Gators, and Leon Bino announced that he was leaving Concordia because he didn't like the refereeing in Quebec and he didn't see eye to eye with coach Doug Daigneault. As yet, however, Daigneault has not heard from either Bino or Simeon Mars, Bino's friend, who also said he would leave Concordia this year. Because of that, Daigneault refused to comment on their remarks, as the first he had heard of it was when he read it in Friday's Georgian. After Friday's game, Bino said that Daigneault restricted him by using him as a rebounder and inside scorer and not allowing him to carry the ball or do much outside shooting. Bino was also dissatisfied with the refereeing in Quebec. "The Quebec Basketball Federation referees have taken away 60% of my game. I'm afraid to touch a guy. I get called all the time." This is Andrea Levy in Studio A for CUTV News and Sports. In the news today, the CUSA assembly bombs, the typing room is lost, and Peter Newman was in town. An assembly held last Thursday at Loyola to present information on the proposed merger of student associations was poorly attended, and Lazer Palnick, president of the Day Students Association, is blaming it on CUSA organizers at Loyola. It was a direct result of their disorganization, Palnick said of the Loyola Students Association. Monica Butler, chief returning officer for CUSA, said inadequate publicity was responsible for the poor turnout at the assembly. Of the 25 people who showed up, 13 were LSA members. The CUSA referendum was held last week at Sir George and was delayed until this week at Loyola, so students would be better informed on the issues. Nevertheless, Palnick said, they didn't get the CUSA supplement out on time. The CUSA posters weren't picked up until Thursday. The letters asking faculty members to tell students of the referendum were never distributed to professors, Palnick said. The results from the referendum were being withheld until the voting finishes at Loyola. Academics, businessmen, and government officials gathered this weekend at Concordia to take part in a government, society, and public purpose conference, organized to debate Canada's policy options in social, economic, and political areas. Over 200 people listened to the different points of view of men and women who propose and influence government policy in Canada. CUTV covered the action the whole weekend, and here now is a video clip of some of the activity.
Insofar as the English in Quebec itself are concerned, and the exodus of English Quebecers to the other provinces, and here again we get into this fine point of defining who's an English Quebecer and who isn't. The English Quebecers of Britannic origin, their percentages having declined significantly in the last 30 or 40 years. The situation for the last 15 or 20 years, the way I see it anyway, is that the large majority of people who are Anglophones in this province still are here, mostly because they are people who are blue-collar or middle management workers and who don't have the mobility that your people who are represented by Don Johnston may.
The economic nationalists, essentially from English-speaking Canada, have ever fully understood the way that Quebec sees itself and the way that Quebec has functioned and the way that Quebec is certainly going to function within this federation called Canada in the future.
Sir George students have lost the use of the typing room, acquired in late October by the Day Students Association, because physical planning personnel began renovations last week to prepare the room for future use by the Graduate Students Association. The room, acquired to give students a place to type term papers and other assignments, was loaned to the DSA by the Athletics Department at 2160 Bishop. A decision was made before Christmas to move the GSA into that room and one other due to the expansion of the Graduate Studies Office, where the GSA is now housed. According to the GSA, that association does not plan to move in until late April or early May. Nobody from the planning office was available to comment, but Dean of Students Mag Flynn said it was likely that once the move was approved, the renovation order was placed with the planning office and put on a list with other jobs. They probably had men available for the job last week, Flynn said, so they went ahead with it. Last week, journalist and writer Peter Newman spoke to Sir George students. In an exclusive interview with CUTV, Mr. Newman had this to say about Canadian politics and the sale of his book, The Bronfman Dynasty.
Good day, this is Deborah Novack. With me is Peter Newman, journalist and author. Mr. Newman, as a journalist, I guess you have to watch the political scene very closely in Ottawa, and recently, I guess in about a year's time, everyone has been predicting when the next election will be. When do you think the next federal election will be?
Well, my guess will be the first or second Monday in May. As you know, Trudeau's mandate runs out in July, so he doesn't have that much choice. I suppose he could go right to the end, but I think he senses that the trend is not so much for him as against Clark as a result of the world tour, so he wants to capitalize on that. And I suspect it'll be called within the next 2 weeks for early May.
Who do you think is going to win?
Well, it's a tough question. You know, you've got an electorate which is very restless. You've got lots of people who are against Clark and lots of people who are against Trudeau. You don't have lots of people who are for either one of them. Mm-hmm. So I think it's one of those elections where the campaign itself will decide the winner. My own guess is that there is not going to be a definite winner, that neither Clark nor Trudeau will be able to get a majority, that you're going to get 120, 130 seats for both of the major parties, which would leave Ed Broadbent of the NDP as the man who will decide the name of the next Prime Minister. You know, will he support Clark, will he support Trudeau? And that's anybody's guess.
Do you think that Quebec will vote as a bloc again for Liberal and the West will go Conservative?
Yes. Yeah. I think that's a very bad thing, because, you know, the only way to make a Conservative party to allow it to give meaningful government is if it has strong representation from Quebec, but it's not going to happen.
The Canadian Association of University Teachers has recommended that the federal government allow Canadians to save for a post-secondary education through a tax-free educational savings plan. The CAUT plan would allow a parent or student to bank from $2,000 per year to a maximum of $20,000. In a brief submitted March 1st to the Federal Commission on Educational Leave and Productivity, the association said its proposal would be similar in operation to the Registered Homeowner Savings Plan. Money put into such a savings account would not be taxed, provided that it was only put towards paying for a post-secondary education. While such a plan may benefit middle-class and upper-class students, it would do nothing to increase accessibility for lower-income students, according to the National Union of Students. Next week, the Performing Arts Division of Concordia's Faculty of Fine Arts is putting on a bilingual play called La Folle de Chaillot. This bilingual comedy, set in Montreal, was written by Jean Giraudoux and deals with a confrontation between a relaxed francophone sidewalk cafe scene and a more uptight anglophone business establishment. La Folle de Chaillot will be playing at the Douglas Burns Clark Theatre March 13th through the 18th, and student tickets are $2. Here now is a sneak preview of one of the scenes.
Bonjour Gabrielle, merci d'être venue. Oh, pas la peine de crier, Aurélie. C'est mercredi, c'est le jour où j'entends très bien. No, it's Thursday. Oh, alors, parlez-moi bien en face. C'est le jour où je vois le mieux. Come on, Dickie, come on and stop that barking. You're hurting our ears. You're going to see the largest bowl of the most handsome man in Montreal. Il ne s'agit pas de mon roi Constance, ni de ce pauvre Adolphe. Il s'agit du monde. Essayez-vous et écoutez-moi. The big one and the small one and the half one. Ne plaisantez pas. La situation est grave. Il s'agit du monde entier. Nous savons à prendre toutes quatre une décision qui pourrait la transformer et en faire un paradis. What couldn't it have waited until tomorrow? I was washing my slippers. Slippers? Oh, d'urgence. Mais je vous expliquerai tout dès que Joséphine sera là. En attendant, prenons le thé. C'est ironique à trouver Joséphine sur son bord devant la cathédrale Marie-Reine du Monde. Pas moyen de la bouger. La reine attend toujours que Duplessis soit sorti. C'est très dommage, l'heure du jugement.
Sir George students are being treated to music by Loyola Fine Arts students all this week. Here now is a sample of what is happening.
As part of Fine Arts Week, Loyola musicians will be playing their tunes here on the mezzanine all week long. So, if you want to get in on the good music, come on down. This is Deborah Novack reporting for CUTV News.
And now for the weather. Today it will be cloudy with some breaks and a chance of some wet snow with a high of +2. This is Andrea Levy in Studio A for CUTV News. Stay tuned for sports. In sports action this week, the Stingers beat the Inukes, and an intercollegiate tennis team has been formulated. Beating the Inukes of Chicoutimi 3 games straight in the QUAA finals may have been satisfying for the Concordia Stingers, but it leaves them with a problem: what to do in the 11 days between Saturday's title clincher and the opening game of the national finals March 16th. The Stingers, though, are unanimous on what they have to do with that time. Get ready, said Chris Brinster, who contributed 2 goals to the suppression of the Inukes and who will be playing in the first CIAU championship next week. What has pleased coach Paul Arsenault the most about the Stingers is the work of the power play and penalty-killing units in the playoff series. Arsenault said last week that the major differences in his coaching this year over past years has been the extra attention he has given in practice to those units, and judging by their performance in the Inuk series, the work has paid off. I'll be there, said St. Mary's Huskies coach Bob Boucher this week. I don't know if my team will be there, but I always make it to the Nationals. Boucher's comment was echoed across Canada, except in Quebec, as 4 out of the 5 CIAU conferences prepare for their final series to see which teams will be coming to Montreal for the national championships, beginning March 15th at the Pointe-Claire Arena. St. Mary's will be playing a best 2 out of 3 series against their crosstown rivals, the Dalhousie University Tigers, this weekend in Halifax to decide the Atlantic region's entry, and as Boucher described it, it'll be a hell of a series one way or the other. Boucher explained that although his team edged out Dalhousie for the first place this year, he is not super confident, and added, "We have had a few injuries. Benches are going to make a difference, and goaltending will make a difference. It's that close." The Huskies made it to the Atlantic Finals by beating a strong University of Prince Edward Island team in 3 games, 4-5 in double overtime, 4-2, and 4-3, while Dalhousie breezed over the University of Moncton in 2 straight games. Registration will take place in the near future for a Concordia intercollegiate tennis team to compete in league with 3 other universities in Quebec. The league will be run jointly by the universities involved, Concordia, McGill, Laval, and the Université de Montréal, and the Quebec National Tennis League. The league will stage a 2-week circuit competition this season, but therefore hopes to begin competition next season from the beginning of the school year. Each school will form a 6-man, 2-woman team, which will compete in the competitions in the 2 weeks beginning March 24th. Games will be played at the Nuns Island Tennis Club and at the Val des Arts Tennis Club in Laval. Students interested in joining the team should register at the Loyola Athletic Complex on March 14th. Registration cost is $35, which includes practice time on the Nuns Island courts and all other expenses. For more information on the league, contact George Short at Athletics, 482-0320, extension 734. This has been Andrea Levy in Studio A for CUTV News and Sports.
Lucy in the sky with diamonds.
God says we're quiet. We're recording.
In the news this week, student services budget increases, Loyola has a radiothon, and the ASA elections are over. Despite cries for major cutbacks, Concordia approved the 1979-1980 student services budget that calls for an increase of $55,162, or 3.03% over this year's spending. Presented at the monthly meeting of the Concordia Council on Student Life, the budget proposes increased or status quo spending in virtually all areas slated for cutting in a CCSL Budgets and Priorities Committee report on February the 19th. Joe Macaluso, Budget and Priorities Chairperson, said 3.3% was the minimal increase that the Board of Governors could introduce and still keep afloat without making cuts. At 12 midnight last night, Loyola's radio station CIRL finished up a 60-hour radio marathon in order to raise money for the Planned Parenthood Association and the Year of the Child. CUTV paid disc jockey Jim Fuhrer a visit, and he had this to say.
I have here Jim Fuhrer, who's been hectically trying to stay up during these 60 hours. What do you have to say for yourself, Jim?
Boy, am I tired. I've got 7 more hours to go, and I personally want to thank everybody who's donated any time, money, or food, or anything at all. Thank you very much. You've been a big help. And of course, this can't be a success unless people call in and donate a pledge, donate anything at all. $1, $2, $5, $10. No donation is too small. If I could give the number, if that would be okay with it. Okay, 488-4622. They really need the money because their budget got cut drastically in the last government austerity program.
Okay, and exactly what is this money? What are you going to do? What are they going to do with this money exactly?
Keep in operation, stay open, fund themselves for their various outings. They go, the lecture tours they go on. They do information kiosks in the shopping centers, like Lexus Neon Plaza, hospitals, schools, universities, CEGEPs, high schools. They go all around, and they need money to do this. They have to pay people. They have to pay for materials. Due to the last budget cut, they're down to 1 full-time staff. Okay, 1 person on full-time staff, 3 part-time, and about 25 volunteers.
Is there any other place we can donate to rather than the number you have already mentioned?
You could probably send your donations directly to the Planned Parenthood Association of Montreal. Or you could call them if you want some information. Their number is 844-3349. And they're always looking for volunteers, too, if you want to kick in some time at a community organization that's worth the effort.
And this project, will it go on longer than after the 7 hours after we're finished the 60-hour marathon? Like, you'll be able to contribute donations afterwards also?
Oh, sure. It's a charitable organization. Every $5 donation gets a tax slip.
All the members of CUTV would like to thank you very much for putting your effort and time towards this. This is Shari Ornberg reporting for CUTV News.
Team sweeps characterize the results of last week's faculty association elections, with Team Arts capturing the 4 contested positions in the Art Student Association, and the 7 for 79 slate winning all Commerce Students Association positions. Incumbent Art Student Association President Colleen Main lost by 46 votes to Team Arts representative Robert Kepps. Being part of a slate probably helped, said Main. It has advantages, she said, because if the people know and like each other, they'll work better together. On the other hand, she added, you can start a clique before you get into office, and then people feel that they're not welcome. We'll have to wait and see which way it goes. Classics has been on strike now for 4 months, and those picketers you see revolving around its front doors on Ste-Catherine Street claim that the store is avoiding negotiations. Here now is a report.
McCrandle.
Yes, you're an employee of Classic?
Yes, sir.
Could you tell us how long Classic has been on strike?
We've been on strike since the 23rd of November. It's almost 4 months today, and Classics has been purposefully avoiding honest negotiations for that entire time.
What are your major Revenge, yeah, what do you want really?
Okay, well, first of all, the starting salary at Classics right now is minimum wage, and we're asking for $3.95 an hour, which would be like a 58-cent an hour increase. Classics, well, 8 months of negotiation before the strike, they refused to even talk about increasing salaries. And then for the first 2 months of the strike, they refused to negotiate. They just flatly said their lawyers were on vacation and there was no negotiations to happen. Then they came back, they offered us 50% of the increase we were asking, a little less than 50%, but at the same time they fired 22 people. And this is, you know, the way their negotiations have gone all along.
So that's where it stands right now.
Basically, there's of course other issues involved, as you know, we get no sick pay, we have very, very limited vacation pays, you know, in other words, only the legal holidays that you have to get by Canadian law. There's no seniority system here, there's no grievance procedure. Basically, the working conditions are lousy, you know.
Are you appealing to get some of the public support?
Yeah, basically, you know, with the retail industry, what you have to do is try to stop customers from entering the store. So our pitch is basically, we stand at the door, we circulate in front of the door, we don't stop anybody from going in, but we try to convince them that they don't have to shop at Classics. There are, after all, 22 other bookstores in this area that they can shop at. And, you know, it's just an appeal for people to have a little sympathy for the first bookstore union in Canada and trying to get our first contract.
Yeah. Do you foresee any conclusion pretty soon?
Well, it's very possible that a conclusion will be forthcoming shortly. Classics management has asked to go into arbitration, which would mean a government arbitrator would come in and he would impose a binding contract which both parties would have to solve. If we go into arbitration, it's a question as to whether it'll be good or not. We might not get anything out of it, you know, we might just have to accept a contract that would be no good for us, but we're hoping that if it goes into arbitration, that we can get some sort of a decent settlement.
Thank you very much. This was Jacques Lacombe with CUTV.
Slightly over 80% of Sir George students earned less than $2,500 last summer, according to the just-released marketing survey conducted by the Day Students Association. The survey, distributed by the DSA last September, consisted of 29 questions dealing with the socio-economic background of Sir George students and various aspects of student life here. There were 1,596 students who answered the survey run by Pierre Mainville, DSA marketing manager, who along with treasurer Norman Light analyzed the results. The DSA had initially hoped 4,500 students would respond to the survey. Even though the results were not officially released until now, Light said they have been used in formulating DSA policy all year. Sir George's crazy engineering students are highly visible again on campus. Right now, they're holding an open house exhibit on the first floor of the mezzanine, and CUTV has this report.
Your professor?
Sam Osman from the mechanical department here at Concordia.
I understand you're the coordinator of this exposition?
Yes, I worked here with the other member of the mechanical department to coordinate this kind of open house, which we usually have every year about the same time. We invite most of the CEGEP schools in the Montreal area and the high school to come over here and visit our labs and see what mechanical engineering is all about and give them the opportunity to ask questions about our curriculum, the machinery, which basically something for their future career.
So it's mainly for recruitment, right?
To a certain extent, but it has also certain points in terms of making the public aware of what engineering is all about today, what is the university activity, and also in many cases give a chance to many parents to have a look to the educational activity at Concordia.
In general, do we usually have good turnouts to these type of open house?
Yes, in general, actually, we are very fortunate today because of the weather. The last 2 years we had small minor storms. Up till now, it is 3:30. We almost in the middle of the time. We have almost over 100 people from the community here.
Yeah, this is with Jacques Lacombe for CUTV News.
It appears the new $4 million fine arts facility, which was originally to have been completed by July 1st, 1978, will be ready for occupancy in plenty of time for next September. Having been burned in the past, university officials are hedging on a definite completion date, although April 31st is still the target. If promised, student study space on the 5th floor of the hall building is to be ready for September. However, presumably, the fine arts faculty would have to vacate the floor well before September 1st. J.P. Patolis, Assistant Vice Rector of Physical Planning, said the fine arts faculty would move in a number of stages. He said the first step would be to clear the 5th floor of the hall building so needed renovations could be done over the summer. 40 years ago saw one of the darkest periods of world history when Nazi Germany entered upon the brutal extermination of 6 million Jews in the concentration camps of Europe. Humanity's memory of these tragic days becomes increasingly more remote in the cloud of materialism sweeping the planet today. We are threatened with forgetting the lessons of history and falling into the trap of repeating the barbarian errors of the past. Concordia students will be less likely to forget the Holocaust of Nazi Germany, thanks to an impressive display put on by Concordia Hillel in the mezzanine. The display of posters and literature is a vivid reminder of Jewish suffering. CUTV has this report. We're talking to Marilyn Siegel of Concordia Hillel. Marilyn, could you tell us some of the purposes of putting on this exhibition about the Holocaust?
Well, first of all, to perpetuate the memory of the 6 million Jews who perished, as well as the 5 million other people.
Is there a lesson to be learned from the Holocaust?
As far as I'm concerned, the lesson to learn is that this sort of thing, should never happen again, and that it happened in a supposedly cultured, civilized Western nation, where people would, never have imagined this kind of thing could happen.
There's another point which is very interesting, is that the German government is about to pass a law which will put the statute of limitations into effect from the December 31st, 1979, which would mean that any Nazi war criminal still in existence could return to Germany and live a free life without fear of prosecution. Is that correct?
Well, that's correct. The statute will apply only to those who have not yet been formally prosecuted or charged.
Is there anything that we as students and the Canadian public can do to stop this statute of limitations from coming into effect?
Well, there's a worldwide protest postcard campaign taking place now. We've had thousands and thousands of people in Canada and the United States, all over the world for that matter, sending these postcards to their local ambassadors and embassies, to the German government itself.
Right, these are the postcards here.
Right.
I noticed there's a green one and an orange one. And one is to the Chancellor Helmut Schmidt in Bonn, and the other one is here to the ambassador of the Embassy of the Federal Republic in Ottawa. Where can people pick up these cards?
We have them here at the exhibition. They're also available at most local Jewish organizations, Canadian Jewish Congress, Allied Jewish Community Services, the local WISE, anywhere like that.
This is an opportunity for people with a conscience perhaps to make their feelings felt that the lessons of the Holocaust should not be forgotten, and that the people who are responsible for the atrocities should be brought to trial and justice as long as they are alive.
Exactly. And they do say that it is making a difference. 10 years back, well, actually 15 years back in 1965, the statute was supposed to have expired. And there was a tremendous worldwide protest then, at which time the statute was extended a few more years. And it seems to have made a tremendous difference in Germany now. I mean, the signs are that it will be extended or abolished, but since we don't know for sure and won't until an announcement is made, we want the pressure to continue and keep building up.
Thank you very much, Marilyn.
Thank you.
We've been talking to Marilyn Siegel of the Concordia Hillel. So, if you feel that your conscience has been pricked, come down, pick up your cards, and send them in. This is Frank Antonsen reporting for CUTV News in the mezzanine. And the weatherman is calling for sunny weather, with a few cloudy periods. The high, 11 to 14 today, and the outlook for tomorrow, sunny again with cloudy periods, and a high of 13 to 16. Lovely weather to celebrate the arrival of spring. This is Frank Antonsen in Studio A for CUTV News. Stay tuned for the sports coming up. in a moment. Sports action this week, the hockey season comes to a close. The Canadian University hockey season ended on Sunday just like it began in October, with the Alberta Golden Bears maintaining college hockey supremacy and successfully defending their 1977-1978 CIAU title. The Golden Bears defeated the Atlantic Conference representative, the Dalhousie Tigers, 5-1 to give Alberta its 5th CIAU title in 17 years, and making them the only team other than the University of Toronto ever to win back-to-back championships. Chances are favorable that the structure of Canadian university hockey will be dramatically revamped to create a 12-team Super League. All that remains for the change to take effect next year is for the Canadian Inter-University Athletic Union to approve this proposal at its annual meeting this year in June. The proposal, drawn up this weekend during closed-door talks, involved Sports Canada, Hockey Canada, and university hockey coaches. Officially, the QAA badminton season ended February 8th at McGill, with Concordia finishing in second place overall in the standings. However, the work is still far from finished, as preparations are being made towards forming next year's squad. The business of recruiting will be the most important activity in the future. Although 12 of the 18 members of this year's team will probably be back in September, there will be, nonetheless, large gaps in the team that will have to be filled. This is Frank Antonsen in Studio A for CUTV News and Sports. This is the last CUTV News and Sports broadcast for this year, and we hope that you have enjoyed these shows. We will be back next year. Very, very good luck in your exams that are coming up, and have a happy summer.